After a winless season and only one win in the previous 2 seasons, 44 races, Mercedes are throwing everything overboard to develop the best possible car for the 2024 season. This will result in major changes within the organization and will provide the drivers with a completely new and changed car for next year. But will this be enough to enable Hamilton to win again? And maybe even challenge for the 8th title? Stick around to find out what Hamilton, Toto Wolff and Mercedes have in store for 2024. So, following a winless season for the German manufacturer, the Brackley-based team is banking on an all-new car idea for its 2024 W14 Challenger. However, 7-time world champion Hamilton believes there is minimal room for error if Mercedes makes a mistake for the 3rd time in the new ground effect era, which has increased the pressure on the team and its leadership team. Hamilton stated that everyone on his team was feeling it ahead of what would be a vital winter in assuring the competitiveness of its 2024 car. When asked how much pressure team chief Toto Wolff was under, Hamilton replied, "A huge amount for sure. Not just Toto, but globally all of us. Everyone back at the factory, a huge amount of pressure on them." Ultimately, as a boss like Toto, you have to start leaning on people more rather than backing off on them. And how you do that is not easy, as people break at a certain point. So, how do you do it in a constructive way? In a way that's inspiring them to continue? For me, hopefully some of the race results and drives that I've been able to put in, I like to think that sparks inspiration for the guys. Like, oh, we're almost there. And that trickles down through the whole system. The 7-time world champion also accused Mercedes of not listening to him, telling, "Last year I told them the issues that are with the car. And I think it's really about accountability. It's about owning up and saying, yeah, you know what, we didn't listen to you, it's not where it needs to be, and we've got to work." Since then, Mercedes has failed to find direction with its car over the last 2 seasons, according to Hamilton, who claims the team lacks a defined development strategy. I think for this year they thought, the fundamentals are good and we just have to go here, and it was not the case. That's why I was frustrated in February, because they hadn't made the changes I'd asked for. I was able to stay a lot more positive during the year and be like, it's going to be a long season, but let's not give up. Let's keep pushing towards getting the maximum out of the car, whatever that may be. But without those proposed changes at the start of the season, Mercedes was working on the car without direction, without a proper concept to achieve. We didn't have a North Star necessarily at the beginning of the year, knowing exactly where we needed to work towards, he said. And it's been kind of a zigzag line trying to freaking get to where we need to be. Every now and then something positive happens, you're like, okay, that's it. And then it shifts, so the goalpost is always moving, which is typical. However, Hamilton is significantly more optimistic right now as a result of this year's infrastructure improvements, which included the return of technical director James Allison to frontline duties and a change in car design. Yes, I do believe we have a North Star now, which I don't think we've had for 2 years, he said. But still, getting there is not a straight line. There were just certain things, decisions that have been made that just left you blocked at the end of a road and you can't do anything because of the cost cap and all these different things. If you look at the Red Bull, and they've done an amazing job, but from Bahrain last year they had a bouncing issue and fixed it that week. It is like if you're trying to build a wall. It was one brick after the other, brick, 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 just development, development, development. Maybe they added something and it didn't add performance, but they were still building. For us, we had to knock down the wall. We had a lot of aero on that first car last year, but we had to basically knock a ton of downforce off it and then slowly try to add it. But every time we tried to add it, it was worse. We just didn't improve for a long, long, long time. So you can imagine Red Bull are progressing, and we're going like this. He indicated a near flat line. Then eventually it's slowly coming up while they're continuing. That gap, we are just on massively different trajectories. But I think we understand the car so much better now. We have developed great tools in the background. So naturally I'm hopeful, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Even though Hamilton is looking forward to next season, he has admitted to having doubts about himself amid his and Mercedes' poor Formula 1 season. Ultimately, when you have difficult seasons like this, there are always going to be moments when you're like, is it me or is it the car? Do you still have it? Has it gone? Because you're missing that, you know, when the magic happens, when everything comes together, the car and you, and that spark. It's extraordinary. And that's what you're in the search for, Hamilton said. Apart from having conflicting sentiments about his Mercedes, Hamilton also had doubts about himself. I'm only human. If anyone in the world tells you they don't have those things, they're in denial. We're all human beings. At the same time, he continues to be critical of how his squad has handled certain situations. For example, he claims that he saw early in the F1 season that the W14 would not be able to live up to expectations, but that Mercedes did not pay enough attention to him. And when further elaborating on it, Hamilton revealed that Mercedes had some tough conversations after that. No one knew exactly what the problem was. No one knew how to fix it. Having the experience of the previous year, I just applied myself in terms of digging down, sitting with the guys. We were having much better meetings. I was able to stay a lot more positive during the year and be like, it's going to be a long season, but let's not give up. Let's keep pushing towards getting the maximum out of the car, whatever that may be, Hamilton said. It's clear that Mercedes has a long road ahead of them if they want to compete with Red Bull in 2024. To achieve this aim, the team is planning big adjustments. According to Toto Wolff, the majority of next season's car will have fresh improvements to compete for the F1 Championship. Mercedes' development path is presently being directed by James Allison. This year, the Silver Arrows began with a poor concept, requiring them to make an early decision to embark on a new concept. The German squad, like most others, paid the price for not getting a head start on the new regulations. The winter break will be critical, with the 2024 season also having significant implications for 2025. If Toto Wolff's squad is unable to narrow the deficit this year, they will be faced with two alternatives in 2025. Concentrate on a last-ditch recovery effort or admit defeat and redirect resources to engine and aerodynamic research for the 2026 regulations. In any case, Toto Wolff describes the drastic adjustments that his team is planning. I have never in my life felt optimistic about anything, which makes it a little bit sound miserable, but it's protected me. About managing my expectations and just pushing harder, Wolff said, because I think it's never good enough. So, we're changing the concept. We're completely moving away from how we laid out the chassis, the weight distribution, the airflow. I mean, literally, there's almost every component that's been changed. Because only by doing that, I think we have a chance. We could get it wrong also. So, between not gaining what we expect to catching up and making a big step and competing at the front, everything is possible. If you ask me today, there's always skepticism. But that's the mentality in the team, and that pushes us forward to never give up. Hamilton, however, is not holding his breath as he expresses Mercedes' worry. Even though Mercedes will have an all-new car on the grid next season, you can imagine they are also nervous of making too big a change and it being the wrong one, Hamilton said. And we have higher targets than ever before because we've got a massive gap to close. That makes it really tricky. So, Mercedes will come into 2024 with a completely new car. No parts from the W13 and W14 are sacred. Thus, Mercedes will be starting all over again. But will this be enough to enable Lewis Hamilton to win again and perhaps challenge for the record-breaking 8th title? What do you think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.